Late one night, they found themselves conversing under the pale moonlight. I find I've grown so hungry, I can't run from the cold. No one is left to feed me. The others are too bold. The vampire said I'm empty. There's no blood left to spill. And once the people grow too scared to come, I know they never will. The dog and the vampire, two friends in the night. If only they could find their way, they'd make themselves feel right. And the vampire are less different than they seem. They both live on the broken shells of others. They live on broken dreams. The dog said, make me a vampire. I've nowhere left to roam. I want to live forever, but not if I'm alone. The vampire said, you're crazy. You'll never live it down. Would soon grow hazy. Your world come crashing down. The dog and the vampire, they speak without words. A dream brigade, a nighttime choir. news to him. No pleading made him bend. But finally he gave in. He held the dog real fast. He bit hard, he drained his life. An hour, a year had passed. And then the vampire left him. He never once returned. Through his tears he knew the loss. The dog had finally learned. The dog and the vampire, two friends in the night. If only they could find their way and make themselves feel right. The dog and the vampire, they speak without words. Dream brigade, a nighttime choir. They never once been heard.
All right. What's going on, everybody out there? Hello, people. Hello, Topkin. Hello, Lendane. Twitch Rewatcher. What is up? It's good to see Topkin and Lego. Optic Nerve, my friend. Good to see Burner. I think I saw on there as well. Good to see you guys. Thanks a lot, by the way, Optic Raiders. I did actually see that. I had gone upstairs with my food, so I was kind of pulling it all together, and I was like, you know, then the raid came, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to speak and say anything because I'm too busy eating. Oh, that's cool, Lego. Awesome. So welcome, everybody. I hope everyone is having a good evening and is ready for a little Shadowrun Returns madness. I hope that is the case. You'll notice that I may be slightly prepared for it. Look at that. Installed it, made sure everything is working with the stream, so knock on wood, everything should be fine for today. So anyway, welcome to the Optic Raiders and everybody else. How's everyone doing? You guys psyched? You guys pumped up for some Shadowrun? With commentary. Awesome. Also, how's the audio? You'll notice that I do not have to be quiet tonight, so I will be my usual full-blown self, such as it is. Unacceptable, Topkin. No tea can ever be made. No, I'm just kidding. Just make sure you make it English breakfast, which is awesome. My wife likes Earl Grey, which is okay. Amen, Lego. I want to see a ton of people in chat today. I do. I want to see tons of people in here having a great time. So let me just lay out the way this is going to work, guys. I'm going to start in about 3 minutes. I'm going to start reading the next chapter of ICARUS. Then I am going to bring in John Helfers, and we are going to get started with the Shadowrun stream. Actually, when I confirmed with him, he was like, okay, that's fine. I'll see you at 8. And then he was like, now back to the game. So he's already been playing Shadowrun, shockingly. So I'm going to bring him in. He's going to be here answering questions. He'll be with me in Skype as I play. And then Jason Hardy, as soon he's traveling, but as soon as he gets in, then we will add him. So he may not be on until 9 or something. But either way, both of them will be on at some point tonight, and we'll be on for a couple hours with you guys as well. So Lipton, well, that's okay. That's fine. That's acceptable. We will permit that, Top. Okay. So let's see. I think I've got everything running and going as well. I've also got the it was kind of interesting to play a little bit with the whole chroma keying thing because I'm using Better Twitch TV, which is Graydon's recommendation. and it's a really good idea, but it was, Shadowrun is such a dark game that you kind of have to find the right place to put everything where it has transparency and it doesn't block things out and it looks cool and it's not getting... So I think the bottom left, which is where I have it right now, is going to stay out of the way of most of the Shadowrun game features, but, not necessarily all of them. So I'll do the best I can with it, but... Okay, so I know Optics played this a little bit. Has anyone else played this so far, or has anyone else seen any of Shadowrun? Other than, like, YouTube vids and stuff? It looks really beautiful. Only like 10 minutes. Yeah, it does look beautiful. I know. I was thinking about how, like, it looks real crisp. I mean, we'll see. I've noticed, I've heard a couple of people say that there's some typos, which I will give John grief for. Not that he wrote them, but I'll just be like, listen, how can you, a literature guy? No. But otherwise, it looks really pretty well together, so let's hope that that is the case. In general, reviews seem to have been positive. I noticed that some people, actually IGN of all places was one of the lower ones, which is weird. Normally IGN is like a scale of 9.5 to 10. But this time I think they only gave it a 7.3. They said they liked it, but they felt the campaign was a little short and a little linear, and they said they were looking forward to what it was going to become. And I was like, all right, well, we'll see. It will be interesting to see what the community comes up with for sure. Yeah, no, and I've seen other places that gave it a higher one. Absolutely. Looks cool to me. We're going to make our own decisions, right? All right, well, with all that said, it is time to get underway. So we're going to be reading Chapter 4 here. And then when Chapter 4 is finished, I am going to bring in John, and we're going to get started with Shadowrun. So is everyone ready for Chapter 4 of ICARUS? Everyone ready? I don't think so, Lego, but I will keep in mind if I have to cut off a little early to make sure that we hit the 8 o'clock number, I'll do that if I have to. And I'll try to stop at a time where it isn't like in the middle of a cliffhanger. So we'll see. All right, cool. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. Again, Chapter 4 of ICARUS, and then straight into Shadowrun from there. So here we go. I've been through some rough scrapes in my life, but I couldn't remember a time rougher than this. Standing in front of a Magister Tower, ready to face something so mean it made a flame demon seem like a tame rock turtle. There was Rigg standing by me, shaking in fear, barely able to lift his head, and Icky on the other side, looking at that sign on the side of the front gate with that same strange, calm expression of his. Nothing ever seemed to bother him, even something like this. But then, he didn't know what he was really up against, of course. But I was still surprised when he turned to me and told me not to be afraid. Remember that nothing is ever as dangerous as your fears of it, he says, the crazy fool. No, I says, it's always worse. But I admit I felt a little more relaxed just the same. Somehow Icky had a way of making me feel better about things even when they all seemed to be getting worse. Of course, I still didn't believe half his story with that foolishness about coming from above. I hadn't lived as long as I had by believing stories my mom might have told me when I was young. But still, he had fallen from somewhere, and he had disintegrated that flame demon into dust, and he did have those wings of his. And deep down there was a little part of me that wanted to believe him, You spend as much time as I have down here, and you make a lot of wishes. It would have been nice for one of them to come true. But wishing for something won't make it so, and so Renshaw stepped up to the sign in front of the gate. I shook my head to clear it. If there was ever a time I was going to need whatever sense I had, this was it. Renshaw bowed his head and held the tower around his neck in front of the sign, muttering a few words under his breath, and then stood quiet. A moment later I heard a clang from inside the tower as some iron latch was released, and with a rumble the whole gate slowly lifted in front of us. The inside of the tower past the opening was dark as coal, except for one red light I could make out. But it wasn't the darkness that bothered me so much as the smell. It wasn't a bad smell exactly, but something seemed out of place about it. Sometimes when Rigg gets back from one of his romps, I can tell from a mile off that he's been fooling around near a sulfur pit, and cleaning a solar is no easy job. They don't much like baths anyway. But even then it's an odor you can figure to find pretty often. This felt fake, like something sprayed something with a sweet scent to cover a bad one. I heard Rigg snort next to me, and looking to my left I saw that even Icky was wrinkling up his nose a bit, so I figured I wasn't the only one who noticed. "Let's move," Renshaw barked, and he waved at us while he stepped into the gate opening. Not that he was skipping around either. Even a rockhead like Renshaw couldn't feel too good around a place like this. The guards prodded us in the backs with those sticks of theirs, and after I gave 'em all a look, they didn't even look back, of course, still staring off into space like they was drugged, Icky, Rig, and I followed. I took one more glance over my shoulder as I went, though. I was pretty sure it was the last I was ever going to see of the outside again. Inside the opening, Renshaw led us to the red light, which was sitting at the bottom of a set of stairs leading upwards. I still couldn't see anything around me, no matter how hard I strained my eyes, which was kind of strange when I thought of it. I mean, we're used to not having much light, and we can see pretty far even without torches or lanterns. But here the darkness was thicker than Rig's noggin, and other than maybe a faint light from Mickey's wings and the red light in front of us, there was no seeing through it. It felt a little like the fake smell around the place, if you want to know the truth, like someone painted it on over something else that was there before. But whatever the reason, it made sense. Anyone trying to escape would have soul's time finding the exit in this blackness. As we got to the red light, it flared up slightly, so we could see the bottom of the stairs in front of us and the back of Renshaw's head as he started to climb, but I wondered how we were supposed to see once we got up a few steps. But after a few moments, I saw another one of the red lights brighten as Renshaw reached the third stair, and as the last of us passed the first light, it dimmed into darkness. Just enough to light the way upwards and downwards at a regular pace, but not if you were running. And as we got to the third stair, we heard a rumbling sound and a loud clang from below, the gate closing over, I guessed, and so that was that. Even if we could have seen well enough to get to the bottom of these stairs, we wouldn't have had a chance of getting through the closed gate. We were trapped here, for certain, and we weren't going to see someone likely to let us out again. Next to me I heard Rig snuffle a bit, and I gave him a pat. "Easy there," I says softly. "You just stay close and we'll be fine." It was sort of a lie, but what else could I have told him? Better he kept up some hope for a little longer, I figured. It had to be one of the longest climbs I ever took, though a lot of that was probably 'cause how I felt the whole time. Renshaw led the way, the lights winking on and off every few steps as we passed them, and we walked in silence. Rig shuffled on next to me, his head drooping and his tails dragging on the floor, and on my left was Icky. I couldn't see him, but I heard the bottom of his sandals hitting the stairs as we climbed. Every so often I could hear the sound of stone clinking on stone behind us, and so I knew the guards were still following close by. The stairs spiraled upwards for a long way, and the higher we got, the tighter the spirals were, until it felt almost like we was walking in circles. But even then we kept going for another few cycles until we finally came to a story. The final light was shining on a metal door. I whistled softly. "What is it?" Icky whispered. "It's made of metal, see?" I whispered back. "Everything down here is stone, rock, minerals, but not metal. I heard you can get some out east near the hole, but that's a long way from here, and it's a dangerous trip. I guess if anyone could get a hold of some, a magister could, but still—" "Shut up!" Renshaw snarled as he looked at us for a cycle before turning again and lifting the tower around his neck to the door. I heard a click, and then the door swung open. When I was young, I used to go hunting young thunder arvals with my dad, and I remember standing outside one of their caves for the first time, them screeching and carrying on inside. The last place I wanted to be at that moment was inside that cave, but inside that cave was exactly the place I had to go. But my dad always used to say the sooner you got through worrying about the things you couldn't avoid and started doing them, the faster you'd be done worrying about and having to do them in the first place. So I stood up straight, took a deep breath, and nodded. "On we go, then," I says, to myself as much as anybody, and followed Renshaw into the room. The inside of the room wasn't as big as I thought it would be, actually, though now that I think of it, I don't know how big I could have expected it to be up at the top of that tower. But big or not, it was still impressive looking for sure. The inner wall, which was all one curved, round piece, was lined with fine red cloth, embroidered with designs and symbols. I didn't recognize many of them, but I knew none of them said welcome anyways. Lanterns hung from various places around the room, lighting the whole space in a bright red glow. Tables stood all around the room, too, covered in glass vials, cups, rocks, and different parts of creatures. I saw a horn from a flame demon, a few flickerbrad wings, probably a couple of Arval hooves or two, along with some eyeballs and pieces from skin from creatures I didn't recognize and probably didn't want to. And of course there were lots of flame petals, some loose and some in jars. I wondered if any of them were ones I found. I'd never thought before about what people did with the flame petals I sold them, but now I hoped I hadn't given any to the Magister without meaning to. At one end of the room there was a large thing that looked like some kind of telescope. I had one of those myself, but that one was small enough to put in a pocket. This one was huge and attached to the wall. It probably looked outside at the sky, out of the rest of the village, I figured. Maybe we were all getting spied on for ages and didn't know it. Not that we would have been able to tell anyone about it once we saw this place. Right next to the scope thing was a big desk, and behind it on the wall was a huge tapestry on which a large tower was wove. And on the desk there were more rocks and jars and papers, and right in its center was a large red globe placed in a stand of dark black rock, polished smooth. The globe shimmered and flickered as I looked at it. I'd never seen something like that before. It couldn't be natural, but I couldn't figure who would have been able to make something that beautiful. I shook my head and looked away after a score cycle. It was making me sleepy, and I needed to be wide awake for whatever was going to happen next. "Yes, it is beautiful, isn't it?" someone says in a deep voice from behind me, and I turned around quickly. Standing in front of the door, flanked by the two guards who were now facing each other, was Jarvis the Magister himself. I'd never seen Jarvis up close. There were few of us who had. And now I didn't like the look of him at all. Tall he was, tall and thin, dressed in a deep black robe which seemed to flow around him like it was a shadow more than a piece of clothing, I thought. He was wearing a tower necklace like Renshaw's, though a good sight bigger, and in his right hand he was carrying a big black book with gold symbols on the front. His left hand was hanging by his side, hidden in the folds of his robe. He had an angular face and dark brown-red eyebrows bristling over a pair of deep black eyes. Yes, black, I says, all black. If he had any pupils, I couldn't see them from here, and I wasn't about to get closer to find out for certain. He had a neatly trimmed beard around the thin lips of his mouth, and he was smiling, but not in a nice way. Actually, his grin reminded me a little of that flame demon we ran into right before it was about to attack. "That was found far from here, out east. Pretty near the hold, I believe," he went on, taking a few steps closer as he kept his gaze on the globe on his desk. "I was so struck by it that I had to bring it back with me, though some of the people there were loath to part with it. But his grin grew wider, "I convinced them to let it go." I shuddered a little bit at that, wondering what his version of convincing someone might be. He opened his mouth as if to ask me who I was, but up came Renshaw blabbering before he could get the words out. "Oh, greetings, your great eminence," he says in that polite, whiny way he has, bowing so low his head almost brushed the ground while the Magister looked at him like he had just seen a rock in the road and was decided whether to kick it or step over it and move on. "As you commanded, I've brought the rogue grounder here, along with his animal. This is—" But I'd had enough of Renshaw to last a dodo-cycle already, and I wasn't going to let him introduce me to anyone like I was some rock-brained servant who couldn't speak for himself, even to the Magister. So I stepped forward. "The name's Jelinek, your eminence," I says, while Renshaw sputtered, acting like he just swallowed a lorak egg whole. "And this here is Rig, my solar. He's not an animal either, your eminence. Leastways no more than the mayor is here. Truth be told, I trust Rig more than I would Renshaw, and that's a fact." Renshaw's face turned a dark shade of purple. Now he looked as if he wanted to swallow me whole. "This little worm," he began, biting off the last word, "not only insulted and threatened me, your eminence, he also tried to deny entry to—" But Jarvis waved his hand, cutting Renshaw off, and walked over to the desk with the globe. "I couldn't possibly care less about who insults and threatens you, Renshaw," he says, sounding as bored as if he was watching a flame pedal dry. "If I threw everybody who does that into prison, there wouldn't be anything left of this miserable little hole you call a village to look after." Now Renshaw looked as if he wanted to swallow his own tongue. "No, really, this is all very tiresome," the Magister went on. "I really must find a way to make you more valuable to me, instead of forever wasting my time the way you do now." Renshaw looked ready to burst into flames at this last line, but he managed to control himself enough to sputter. But, your eminence, you asked me to bring these creatures here." "Creatures?" Jarvis says, sinking into the chair behind the desk as he laid the book down on the surface and picked up the globe. Something seemed strange about the way he was acting, but I couldn't figure it out just yet. "All I see is a small grounder and his solar. I don't see what's so important about them." He held the globe close to his face, stared into it, and then I realized what was wrong. He was only using his right hand. His left hand never moved from beneath the robe. In fact, he never even brought it out into the open. Maybe he got hurt with it somehow. "Not them, Magister," Renshaw says desperately. "The other one, the one with the wings." "The what?" Jarvis says, not even looking up. And then I heard Icky step from the shadows near the door into the light. "I think he's referring to me, Your Eminence," he says calmly, and Jarvis finally tore his gaze from the globe in front of him. His eyes widened as he saw Icky, and he nearly dropped the globe, only just managing to get it back on its stand. He pushed his chair back a few feet, never taking his eyes off of Icky, and slowly stood. "This is the one I was telling you about, Magister," Renshaw says proudly, but Jarvis didn't even blink in his direction. Finally, he walked around his desk slowly and took several careful steps towards Icky. He'd totally forgotten about Rig and me. In fact, he barely seemed to know there was anyone in the room at all except him and Icky. And as he kept watching him, I started to wonder what it all meant. 'Cause it didn't look just like someone walking around something he's never seen before. It looked a lot more like he was someone seeing something familiar for the first time in a long time. Of course, Icky didn't seem to know him, but then according to Icky, he didn't remember knowing anyone right now. Finally, Jarvis opened his mouth to speak. "You know our language," he says. "Yes," Icky says back. Jarvis blinked, but went on. "Are you from here?" he asked. "I don't know," Icky answered simply. "I'm not sure where I'm from, to be honest." Jarvis blinked again, then raised his right hand and stroked the tuft of beard on his chin. "And are you being honest?" he finally says. "Or are you protecting someone or something that you're afraid might get hurt if you told the truth?" Icky looked at him a bit surprised. "Well, who would I protect by keeping my identity secret?" he asked, and Renshaw coughed. "The Magister will ask the questions, he snarled. "You keep your mouth shut and let him—" But Jarvis waved his hand again to shut him up. "Renshaw, would you leave us, please? I need to speak to this creature alone without you here to distract me. You've done enough for today." At this, Renshaw's mouth dropped, and his face looked like it was quickly working its way back to purple. "But, Your Eminence, I am the mayor here, and I should be here during the interrogation. If there might be a threat, I'm supposed to—" But he trailed off as he saw Jarvis turn his glare on him. "Are you questioning me, Renshaw?" the Magister says in a calm voice. Calm like the moment right before a lava geyser blows, I thought. Renshaw swallowed and took a small step back towards the door. No, Your Eminence," he stuttered, his face going pale as fast as it went red a few millicycles before. "I wouldn't presume to question—" "Because if you are questioning me," Jarvis says in that same deadly quiet way, "I think we'd have to discuss our business relationship here and what we've both gotten out of it. In fact, I think we'll have to discuss a lot of things." He took one step towards Renshaw, and that stuffed rock brain nearly melted into the floor. "Oh, no, not at all. No, really, he says, sneaking back as fast as he could till he was leaning against the door to the room. I understand. I mean, you're right. It's fine. It's your decision, and—" Now his back was against the door, right between the two guards facing each other. "True. It is," Jarvis says mildly, but there was acid on his breath for sure. "I'm no Magister servant, but I know what their kind can do, and will do, even for just looking at 'em the wrong way. I'm glad we're clear about that. See yourself out, will you?" And he nodded at the door which, and I swear I saw this sure as I'm standing here, flew open without anyone touching it. Renshaw gave a cry that sounded like a cross between a Flickerbrad and Rig when he swallowed a Pellar and toppled backwards. The door slammed shut behind him, and we heard the sound of flesh crunching on stone for a few moments afterward, followed by a none too quiet curse. But Jarvis had already turned away from the door and was moving behind his desk again as if nothing had happened. "Well, I'm sorry about that, I'm sure," he says, as mild as you please, sitting down again in the chair behind his desk. "You must be able to see what I'm faced with here. Some of the locals are so steeped in superstition it's hard to get any of them to fall in line. Renshaw's one of the worst that way. I really must do something about him soon. But you understand, of course." I blinked for a cycle, but then I realized the Magister wasn't talking to me. I think he probably still didn't even remember that Rick and me were here too. He was looking the whole time at Icky, staring as if he wanted to see inside his brain to see what he was thinking. Icky smiled. "Of course," he says, all pleasant and polite. "It must be difficult to deal with all these obstacles you have here. I wonder how you manage it." Jarvis smiled and sighed. "Well, it's not easy, I admit. A big part of it is just trying to keep order and peace, and that's no small task at times. You need to remember that we're dealing with pretty stupid creatures on the whole, savage and violent. I can't just ask them to behave, I have to make them, and that's not a simple job." Rig growled quietly, and I gave him a quick tap to shut him up, though I couldn't say that I blamed him after hearing that line. Icky's smile didn't waver, though. He just nodded. I'll bet it is, he says. Did you ever think of other ways to control them? I've heard that kindness works wonders in these situations, and you don't have to dirty your hands with discipline that way. I looked suspiciously at Icky, but I still couldn't see anything change in his face. What was he playing at? Okay. That is about probably 2/3 of the way through Chapter 4, but I am going to stop it there because I want to make sure that we do not miss the Shadowrun stream. So I'm going to stop it at that point. I hope that people enjoyed that so far. The next time that you hear this will be before the Baldur's Gate stream, and I will try to get on a little bit earlier, finish that chapter up, and then move on to Chapter 5. So I will do that as well. Yeah, that was my Skype. That was actually John getting in touch with me, and I'm going to bring him in. But if you guys are interested about that, make sure you check out the previous chapters that I've had on stream. And then, as I say, I will make sure to continue talking about that in the future. Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Mano. Let's see. Okay, thank you, Guilt. Thanks for everyone who came in the middle. Hey, what's up, Joy? Let's see, what else? Total Biscuit did his impression of Shadowrun. Oh, hit Big Gamer's Twitter. Nice. Thanks, Thanos. That's awesome, man. I appreciate it. All right. So that was Icarus. I hope people enjoyed that and will want to hear more in the future. But with that said, I'm going to bring John on board. And I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to mute this for a second just while I call him. So bear with me for about 2 seconds. Give me 1 sec. Okay, so I am back. Welcome, everybody. So I want to introduce our very special guest. This is a good friend of mine who is a longtime friend that actually bought my first novel, and that's why I had him on, just to tell you. No, the reason I had him on, actually, is because of his expertise in Shadowrun, because this gentleman that I'm going to introduce you all to is not only a two-time Hugo nominee, and hopefully this year will be a Hugo winner, but he's also the managing editor for the Shadowrun literature line and the editor of the Shadowrun Returns anthology. So chat, say hello to John Helfers. What's up, John? How are you?
I am very well, Greg. Thank you so much for having me here. Shadowrun Returns anthology is actually my second one, if I can toot my horn for just a moment. I also did the Spells in Chrome back in 2010.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Won me my first gaming award, related book award, which I'm very happy to have gotten, and hopefully Shadowrun Returns will be received as well as that one.
Do you know, are there plans actually to release that anthology beyond just to like the backers? Do you know? Or
okay, here's what I can tell you. I think I've got a little bit of an echo, but that's fine. Catalyst had tried to work out a deal with Hammering Schemes to bring some sort of version, and eventually I think there might be a PDF. The problem is that, honestly, most of the hardcore fans who already backed it are already going to get the anthology, so
right.
I hate to say it, that kind of cuts out a lot of the market because they're going to get it already with the Kickstarter. So I hope there's going to be at least a PDF people can get. There's some awesome stories in there. We have Malik Toms, Robin. I should really bring up Robin King. I should bring up some of the folks, Jason Hardy. if I'd been more prepared for this, I would have brought up the table of contents.
Is Stackpole in there or not? Is Mike in there or
No,
he's not?
no, none of the names, the big names, unfortunately, could fit it into their schedule. We had a really, really, really tight deadline for this. And therefore, we wanted to get Mel, Odom, some of the greats from the old timey times.
Yes.
Unfortunately, just could not make it work out. We do have Tom Dowd, though, another original creator of the game, and Steve Kenson's in there. Hardy, Jason Schmetzer, a newcomer, and
Jen Brozek, right? Jen has the lead story.
Has the lead story. Yes, exactly. And it's a great anthology. Ideally, those who didn't get a chance to get it with a Kickstarter hopefully should get a chance to pick it up. I'm hoping at least they'll put it out in a PDF once kind of the hullabaloo has died down. It deserves to be out there because it's awesome. The stories all tie into characters in the game. And,
say more about that because that's true. This isn't just an anthology of Shadowrun stories. Literally, people who play the game and get characters, there are stories tied into NPCs and so on within the game, right?
That's exactly right. Well, anyone who knows Jordan knows he doesn't do things halfway. and rather than just doing a typical, we're going to do a Shadowrun anthology, he decided we're going to do one based on the characters in the game. So you've got, Cherry Bomb has a story in here. McCluskey, Officer McCluskey has a story in here, and also what's his name? The Chop Shop guy, the doc, whose name is escaping me right now for some reason, even though it's very familiar. That's Jason Hardy's story. Anyways, it's a great one. But he decided to go delve into the characters and give them more backstory as to what's going on. And it just deepens the experience. I mean, the game I've been playing it, as I was telling Greg, I've been playing it myself, and it's a lot of fun. And the anthology just deepens the experience to take you more into the world. So I'm hoping people are going to be able to pick it up, those who, like I said, weren't able to back at the higher levels to get that. And because it deserves to be out there. It's another great addition to the Shadowrun fiction line.
Yeah. So I have two more specific questions about the anthology, and then I'm gonna get started playing it, and then I want to have you be able to field questions and so on from people. But let me ask you two questions first about the antho. So who approached whom? I mean, did Jordan come to you and say, "Listen, we have this anthology that we want to do"? Like, how did it come out that they got you involved and and thought about putting the anthology with it in the first place?
Great, and then I get to tell my really cool story.
Cool.
Well, sort of cool story.
I like cool stories.
So I'd known about the Kickstarter, and I didn't know all the details. But let's see, it was not this past year. No, last year at Gen Con, I happened to walk by Jordan, who doesn't know me from Adam at this time, on the dealer's room, on the floor. And I just called to him, "Hey, Jordan." And he, of course, who's calling his name, doesn't know me from Adam. And I said, "Look, I just wanted to introduce myself. I work with Lauren and the crew at Catalyst. Great job on the Kickstarter. Here's my card. Let me know if I can ever do anything with you." And he's like, "Great, okay, no problem." And I had a little bit of contact with his people at HBS. And sent them my resume and said, just let me know. And at this time, I went back and looked at the Kickstarter and noticed they were doing an anthology and said, "Hey, once again, great meeting with Gen Con, blah, blah, blah. I hear you're doing an original anthology. I would love to be involved. Let me know if there's anything I can do." So months go by, nothing happens. Then I think it was Randall or Jason, one of the two, contacted me in February and said, "Hey, we're probably going to do this anthology with Jordan. For the Shadowrun Returns game, would you like to?" Because they knew my work on Spells and Chrome, and said, "Would you like to, help oversee it?" I said, "Heck yeah!" And they said, "What's your price for it?" And I quoted them a price, and they said, "Great, we'll get back to you." And they did, and they said, "Yeah, the price is fine. You have to have it delivered in 30 days. That's 30 days."
Wow, I didn't know that. They gave you 30 days to deliver?
Well, in order to hit all the deadlines and get everything set, to have it ready with the game. Yeah, it was like 30 days. I did get a little bit more time because, as everyone knows, in the nature of games, there's, flexibility, shall we say. But I got it done. Like I said, it's a great antho. I had a lot of fun working with Jordan. He was very responsive, very, very creative, and very hands-on on the whole process. It was a fun time working with him. I hope I get the chance again. So it's kind of a combination between me being in the right place at the right time and working for Catalyst that brought this all together.
So then talk a little bit about how you figured out which authors to put in. Because, some of the people are friends of that you and I both know. We know Jennifer Brozek and Dylan Bertolo and stuff like that. But did you have a thought about how you wanted to arrange the anthology and how to get the right authors for it? And how, what was the process of putting it all together?
Well, given the time frame and after I picked my jaw up off the floor, I needed people who, A, knew the world inside and out, and B, could write fast, good, and relatively inexpensively.
Okay.
And I reached out to Jason. I already knew Jen, who was very interested and had already done some work in Shadowrun. And, of course, I knew Jason Hardy was going to be involved. And I had some people from over on Spells and Chrome I wanted to reach out to, too. And then I talked to Jason Hardy, who's currently line developer, who, as I trust, is hopefully going to be joining us a little bit later. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes, that's right. He's traveling, and as soon as he gets in, probably I'm guessing about an hour, he's gonna come in. He says, yeah.
Sweet. Then all the game guys can ask all their questions for him. And I said, look, here's the situation, Jason. You're doing a story for me. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you're doing a story. And Dresden, that's it. I just remembered the Chop Shop guy's name is Dresden. Anyways, you're doing a story, and I need your top writers, freelancers who can give me work. And he gave me Malik Toms. He gave me Patrick Goodman. He gave me Robin King. A couple other people who, unfortunately, names escape me right now. I'm going to bring up the anthology because it is pretty cool. And I went to them and said, hey, people, I need writers. Here's the deal. Fast and good. Get me what you can. And luckily, Malik and Robin put in 2 ideas, and they both got accepted, which is really sweet. So they each have 2 stories in the book. It's just because I needed the good stories, and I needed people to really buckle down and get them to me.
Right.
But I also have a newbie in here as well, and that's Dylan Bertolo. And this is his first Shadowrun story, and it worked out that he emailed me and said, look, I know you're doing this. If there's any chance, and as it turned out, I needed one more story, and I needed it like in a week. And I worked with him, and we literally got the story from concept to completely done and to Jordan for review in about 72 hours.
Nice.
It was amazing. So he pulled it off.
Crazy.
It is. But he wanted it. He wanted it really badly, and he did. He wrote the base of the story in one night, and I edited it, got it back to him, got it back to me this next night. Like, okay, we're good to go. He just really pushed himself to get it done, and he did a great job. So okay, I've got brought up the by the way, the anthology. I really, like I said, the PDF is just amazing. They have artwork in the back. They have the full color. If backers who have the wallpaper, that's the cover for it's kind of the interior page in the anthology itself.
Okay.
It's just really amazing. So I also have Philip Lee is in here, Russell Zimmerman, Phaedra Weldon. I got her to do a story. Tom Dowd, as I said. J.C. Hutchins did a fantastic. He did the Cherry Bomb story.
J.C. Hutchins, by the way, for people who don't know, also is a big audiobook guy that I know separate from this, who's done a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, J.C.'s a good guy.
Oh, he is tremendous to work with. He was so good. It was just awesome. Let's see. Stephen Dedman's in here. Yep. Philip Lee. Jason Hardy, Stephen Kenson, and then a nice forward and afterward by Jordan. Also got some fun stuff in here about the Telestrian family tree and corp structure, which you guys will find out as you go through the game. And the art of Shadowrun Returns is like 50 pages. It's unbelievable. They just put in the varying pictures, and here's what the people look like and the different faces you can do. And then the Kickstarter backers, the really great thing, all the backers are in there, and they did this really cool artwork piece that the names are superimposed over like images of people in the game. It's phenomenal. They just did a superb job putting this thing together.
That is awesome. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to actually get the game playing live, and then I want to ask you a couple more questions about your involvement in the Shadowrun universe, and then Chad, at that point, if you have questions, I would love to have you have John field them and put him to work, as it were. So give me a second here whilst I...
Yep, and I got to find out where you are too. Oh, wait, browser. There we go, I'm back. Okay, good.
All right, let me just move this over here.
I should probably read the guitar video. Yes,
right now what they're talking about at the moment is they're talking about kits. They're like,
yes, well, look, I'm just thrilled they have the Physical Adept, which is my favorite class in here, and that's what I'm playing, Elven Physical Adept, and I'm just thrilled because I just love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that actually when I I knew about Shadowrun, but I was always my sort of cyberpunk stuff was always kind of a little bit more muted. I didn't do all that much with it. I was much more a straight up D&D guy. So I always knew of it sort of from the periphery. And then when I started finding out more details about this actually in preparation, I didn't know that it had been set in Seattle. I didn't know like a lot of the details of when exactly the time period was and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
It was pretty cool actually to kind of get to know for the first time, as it were, a lot about this particular universe. And chat, how does that look to everybody? I hope it will look good. By the way, the chat being over on the left side, I know that's blocking that menu, but for most of the game, I did a little test of this before. I think that most of the stuff pops up on the right side, so that's going to keep things out of the way most of the time. No, I know Topkin, but that's what I was just saying, was like, for most of it, it's going to be actually out of the way.
It should be. You should be good to go. It looks good to me.
Okay, cool. Sound good sound-wise for everybody as well?
Yeah, you sound fantastic.
Cool. All right, so let us get underway. And I'm actually going to I only started it just to run around, but I kind of just ran through it quickly, so I am now going to start up a new game, and we will see what's going on. I'll try to not be interrupting John as he's talking to you folks, but I will try to do some reading of the stuff when it happens. So, and you've played this main campaign like a couple hours worth, or how far have you played into this, John?
Yeah, I'd say a couple hours, like 2 to 3 hours. I've gotten fairly far into it now. Of course, I'm sort of cheating, but not really, because I had to get the plot outline from them to make sure the story's meshed. But it's still enjoyable to play anyways, even knowing some things that happen and some things that don't. But I would say maybe 3 to 4 hours in. Yeah. Okay. I've completed a couple of the missions. I've gotten a couple places. I'm well into it, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun to play.
I was just gonna say, so I know you're biased. Oh, let me answer that question. Lendane, yeah, you can put in a link. That's fine. I know that you're biased, but did they capture the feel of Shadowrun that as you understand it?
As far as I can tell, absolutely. Now, I haven't played the RPG since 2nd edition, so I'm a little rusty on that. I really should probably sit down at Gen Con and play some, I know a lot of people are getting fantastic reviews for 5th Ed, and it's selling like crazy. They set the 1-day record on, I think it's Drive-Thru RPG.
Right, and that was just released in Origins was the first time that they released the soft cover, right? And then Gen Con they're going to release the hardcover? Is that the idea?
Yes, okay. Yes. Hardcover will be available at Gen Con, so get it there while it's hot.
Yeah, Optic Nerve Productions, who's in chat, is a massive Shadowrun fan. Like all the games, all the stuff. So he has been pumped up about this cast for roughly 3 months since I told him there was a possibility. So yeah,
great. Yeah, and Jason, I saw some people were like the most customer gameplay. Jason will be happy to handle whatever he can on that particular aspect of it.
Yeah,
too,
John is definitely going to have stuff to say about the universe as he knows it and stuff that he's done with them before. So those are questions as well. No, I know Xanos. I know you've been a big fan of it. I didn't want to get into Optic is a better fan than Xanos. No, obviously everybody's been really excited about this.
Let's not start an SR fan war. I'm not here for that. Absolutely.
No, second ed is all that counts.
Yeah, I can. No. I definitely. Look, if someone who has the spells in Chrome had read my introduction and I said, I've always loved the Shadowrun world, but those old rule systems drove me just nuts.
Yeah, so this is actually, it was a little bit different. I was looking at some of the changes, like Decker became Hacker, and then went back to Decker, and so there was kind of a,
Well, okay, the biggest one people need to keep in mind is this is set in, is it 2050?
Yes, right? But the original was 2076, right? Or 2070?
So we're in 2074, if I remember correctly. No, the original, you mean the original, like, first iteration of Shadowrun?
Yeah, first iteration, yeah.
That was actually, like, 2040?
Oh, okay.
Jason would probably be a much better person about the history of. I think it was, like, 2040, because that was, like, back in 1990 or something like that, or 89.
Something like that, yeah.
So they went 50 years, like, sure, 50 years in the future would be plenty of time. And look where we've come, like real tech.
I know.
Compared to where it is now. So they 5th edition went to I want to say 72. I could be wrong though. And it was rocking and rolling. And to have Shadowrun be around for 25 years is just legendary in and of itself, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they've taken a bunch of sort of bites. They had a bunch of bites at the apple with trying to get various video game versions of this. There was one pretty good, as I recall, Genesis and Super Nintendo version, and then there was a pretty bad. I don't know. I didn't play it, but I heard that the 2007 Microsoft shooter was kind of subpar. And so it was interesting to see that these guys kind of were like, all right, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to what made Shadowrun cool. I mean, they updated the dates and all that, but in terms of like going back to the RPG side, they're like, let's try to recreate the experience, right?
That's exactly right. And of course, the great thing is that it was in the hands of someone, Jordan Weissman, of course, who knows since he created the darn thing. And he wanted to bring that experience. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, if I mention the Xbox, I'm going to put it in air quotes, game, that tons of people were totally disappointed about that. And I like to think it's one of the reasons he started to do it, because he wanted to bring back the feel. And so far, it's down there. I mean, it's all there, man. People casting spells, med kits, the whole I just punched a guy to death and then fought a hellhound, that kind of stuff. And it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's just really, really great. So
that's really cool. Let me say hi to a couple people. Hi, Cairo.
Yep.
Also, Mike, Capoeirista Mike, who just came in. That, John, actually is Mike Underwood, who you may know a little bit. He's an author, wrote Celebromancy and Geekomancy. Celebromancy has just come out, I believe. And
you have mentioned his name.
Yes, he's a good guy. And Mike, this is John Helfer's my first editor, and John and I have working on another project as well. So, and he's a big shot in the Shadowrun literature universe, and tied this in with this as well. So, all right. So let me see. So the Dead Man's Switch. In the urban sprawl, the Seattle Metroplex, the search for a mysterious killer sets you on a trail that leads from the darkest slums to the city's most powerful megacore. Is it Mega Corpse or is it Mega Core?
No,
in the plural.
Corpse with an
Mega
S.
Corpse. Okay.
Yeah, there are multiple ones. Yes.
Right, gotcha. Mega Corpse. Hey, Anam, what's up? Nominatus, also from Destructoid fame, very good guy. Let's see. You will need to tread carefully, enlist the aid of other runners, and master powerful forces of technology and magic in order to emerge from the shadows of Seattle unscathed. Really, does anybody ever emerge from the shadows of Seattle unscathed? No.
Oh,
My
hell
wife
no.
fears that she'd get bad.
Nope. Now, wait, Greg, real quick. Now, you've played, or this is your first time really immersing yourself in Shadowrun? Do you want to give me a little feedback on
This is my,
what-
I only knew about it peripherally. I mean, I had friends who played it, but I basically, it's funny that you say that because it came out when I graduated from high school, which is troubling to me about my age. But anyway.
Don't remind me.
you and I, yeah, we're in the same boat. But so no, I always played like sort of straight D&D stuff, and I never played Shadowrun. And then I think I did play, or I remember watching someone play a little bit of the Shadowrun, the Genesis version, back whenever that was.
Which also I heard was a very good platform.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's it. Pretty much. And so
Well, you're gonna be in for a treat. I think you're gonna enjoy it.
that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so now for people,
I wish there was just like a multiplayer because I'd jump in with you, but I know I think it's.
I know. Well, they have the MMO coming, right? So I guess they're gonna have the.
That's a different company, I think.
Is it totally different? So that you haven't been approached by them yet to do any
I
kind of.
wish. No, not yet. I'm hoping, but I was looking at it on Kickstarter, and it's a different people who are doing it.
Okay, totally different. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay, well maybe they'll figure out a way to do like a multiplayer mod or something like that. At some
Yeah,
point. down
or
the line.
look, I'm sure it'll be coming. I mean, as they refine the game, and they want this to be, I can tell that Berlin is going to be the next setting that's being developed right now. So they have plans to take this beyond just this adventure. And the really cool thing is opening up to the players. You guys can create your own runs, which is phenomenal. Of course. It just enhances the experience for everybody.
Very much like the Neverwinter Nights setup, where they basically, the original campaign was fine, but then creating this whole different, this community-based thing where all these people are able to produce new adventures is really what D&D is all about, very modular, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, now, chat, let me just mention one thing as I go through and create my character here. If you guys have questions, what I'd like you to do, let me just double check and see. I know that we got Lego, one of my mods, is on, and come on, Twitch, show to me more information. Okay, so far Lego is my only mod that's on right now. So what I would like people to do is, if you have questions, I would like you just to, hold on, this got screwed up a little bit. Give me a second. There we go. What I would like people to do is, if you have questions, I would like you to just ask basically by doing question in all caps. So if you just do question in all caps, and then don't do the whole question in caps, just do the word question in all caps, : and then ask a question for John. That's how we'll know the difference between you just chatting with me or with anybody else, and whether or not you're actually speaking to John about something. Okay? So if people can just
Good idea, Greg.
Thank you, I tried. So capital question. How did we get such sexy voices? Well, John has radio experience.
Yes, wow, it's been only like 10 minutes before that first brought up.
I promise I won't bring it up again. And in fairness,
no.
nobody knows the context beyond you and me. So. But
it's going on my website. I'm going to be a hybrid with radio experience.
Oh, I love that.
Actually, Don Caro, I can ask very simply. I did do radio in college, and I do a lot of, as Greg does, a lot of talking at cons.
Yes, that's basically it. Yeah, John and I are both in the Writers' Symposium at Gen Con as well. So, are you a fire-breathing dragon?
I wish.
If only.
I should talk like this. No,
you sound more like Batman.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know what a dragon sounds like, to be quite honest. So,
let's see. Okay, now, and feel free, by the way, if Xanos asks a question, to ignore. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, now, as far as the character classes are concerned, now what character are you playing in your game, John? Remind me again. You said a street samurai or physical adept?
No, physical adept.
Okay.
My favorite class of all.
Okay.
Yes.
Elven.
What
race? Elven physical adept. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a question. So, as someone that's never played a Shadowrun game, can I start with this game and not be lost? Inam asks.
Yes. This game actually is a great introduction. It's all very visual and pictorial. I mean, I was just trying to figure out in combat, to be honest. I was trying to figure out, like, why can't I use the medkit, and realized I wasn't doing it properly, but it took me like 2 seconds. The great thing about this game, it's a turn-based game.
Yeah.
Much like, again, Neverwinter Nights and all those. So you don't have to worry about, oh my god, I'm freaking out because this guy's shooting at me. It's very easy to jump into. Like I said, I didn't read a single instruction. And there's a question. If you go, Greg, when you get your character created, there's the power symbol in the corner, and there's a question mark. It'll open up a menu that gives you help to the game. I was up and playing in literally like 5 minutes.
Nice.
Okay? And I haven't played a computer game in, well, geez, I don't want to go into that. A long time ago. Let's put it that way. And it was just like bam, 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 and you're ready to rock. And
Nice.
it's just fantastic. So maybe you should do something. I don't know. What do you typically like to play, Greg?
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm thinking about that. Well, on this stream, I've played I've played Arcanum, which is a game from about 10 years ago. I typically in RPGs love playing super persuasive, charismatic talker type guys. That's usually one of the things that I like to do. I like the idea of not being as cyberpunky as magic-y, so I was looking at Shaman before, or Shaman.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, well, spirit conjuring is always a good thing.
So within the Shadowrun RPG, you don't get gimped if you play Shaman.
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, shamans have some of the most powerful spells, and they balance it very well. And shamans, you're not operating at any kind of disadvantage for it whatsoever.
Cool. All right. Well, then that
you can't use that picture because that's my picture.
Oh, I'm not allowed to. But that's such a cool. I see why you chose it too.
Yeah, no kidding. Like,
shadowy.
Awesome.
Let's see. Do not want to play weird-looking bald guys. Still don't. No. Still no.
And people are seeing some of the depth. They go like that guy is like, what is he, undead? I mean, there's some of the depth to these dudes. Now there's your fixer guy right there. Some shades on.
That's promising. That's promising. I have to admit. That's promising. I may come back to that. No. What? I like the idea of wearing goggles that look like I have dice, but I think maybe not. That's not bad. No, with the piercings, no. No, with a mohawk. Whoa.
He's a little emo. There you go.
That's not bad, but that feels like I am playing straight up D&D, though.
You can modify him when you go down below. You can modify, which is then it gets really cool. I was almost giving a big, huge beard, and I decided not to.
Okay.
So
well, then I can make adjustments. All right. Well, then let me go back to. Okay, let's see. It's either going to be this guy. That guy.
There you go.
Okay, so I'll let chat decide. Chat. No sunglasses or sunglasses? Chat, you decide. No sunglasses or sunglasses? What's it going to be?
Waiting for people for comments here. I vote for the undead. See, someone wants you to do the
undead guy. And no
tattoos.
Yeah, of course.
Tattoos.
No tattoos. Glasses or no glasses? Let's see. We got yes, no. Three, yes.
Glasses, no sunglasses. Where's the sunglasses at night? It's 2 for no sunglasses, sunglasses. Actually, it looks like they're going for sunglasses.
Well, the problem is that they're having a tough time because I admit that both of them look awesome.
Yes, indeed.
Toughie or... Yeah, it is a toughie, yeah. Let's see.
Twitchery had asked about how hard is this game. Let me go back and answer that one quick. I guess I could use a little bit more clarification. Hard in what way? Is it, pickup is not difficult, and then it's just a matter of, it's a point-and-click interface. So you're going around and finding images, and you're solving a mystery that you get involved with. And I know I haven't gotten any of the deeper puzzles yet. I think there are some like logic-based stuff, but I haven't gotten that far. So I don't really know the programming, how they programmed that stuff, how difficult it's going to be, if it's going to be more like, just one of the like Neverwinter Nights kind of thing, or if they have like separate. I think they talked about in the outline, and I'm not giving anything away here, about having some separate like logic-based puzzles. I don't know if those are here, because of course most games go through innumerable changes while going through the creation process, which actually changed one of our stories. We had to change the setting for one of Robin King's stories because she was in one place like, no, it's not there anymore. We have to go to this, and luckily she was a pro and she rewrote it for us. But I don't know what kind of puzzles they're doing. If you like just kind of exploring a world, and if you like the Neverwinter Nights kind of engine, I think anyone's really going to enjoy this. I see you've already gotten into the, what are you, brown and brown?
No, not yet. I'm basically just creating a hairstyle.
I know, you're just playing. Exactly. They get pretty funky too, and you go bald, you can go the whole 9 yards. Yeah,
So Xanos is a question. You said you weren't around when the original game came out. That's not true.
Well,
I can tell you that's not true.
Thank you, Greg. You're so kind. Like I said, I picked it up in college, and again, I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was either. But that's when I first got introduced to it. And that was second edition, so you can kind of peg where I come from by that answer. And that was, it was solidly established. Like I said, second edition, so they're already starting to revise things. But it just, the game we spent. I mentioned this also in my Spells and Chrome intro, that we spent an entire evening doing like one combat. I'm like, okay, I just can't. I felt like I needed to take more math classes in college. Like, this is ridiculous. So, and then they've changed it. Third edition got better. Fourth got even better. And I think fifth is supposed to be the best yet. And so far from the reviews have been absolutely. So.
Thank you for the tip, Mano. I will make that adjustment right now. Give me 1 second while I adjust my title.
Well, there goes a couple of my story-based questions. Well, Xano can throw them out there. I can answer what I can answer, but I'm not. Some things I don't want to give any spoilers. So there is that. And yes, the art is phenomenal. That's one of the things they did, I think, right from the get-go. And that's one thing about Shadowrun that it's hard to grasp on a writing perspective is the feel of the game. The whole, squalor in Seattle, and it's 2070, and there's a downtrodden population, and the megacorps live in this, literally other world kind of thing, and all this stuff. Optic Narrative question: how does the game handle your character as far as one adventure to the other? For player-created content and the other Harebrained campaigns, say in level or reroll. As far as I know, I believe, from what I've seen, your character will be portable. If you want to play, your friend got this great run he just set up, you'll be able to play in that. I don't know about once you get up to like higher levels, if there's going to be certain like this run is, for level like 4 or 5 characters, beginning characters, intermediate, or advanced. I don't know about if they're going to do it that way. But as far as I know, your character's playable anywhere. When Berlin comes out, you can go there. And ideally, they're going to be doing other settings as well, so you can go. I'd love to see Lagos come out. I'd love to see New York City come out. I'd love to see Chicago. Where it actually becomes a whole big kind of thing. And as far as I know, the characters will be usable pretty much anywhere.
And I just got a message from Jason Hardy, who is home and online. So let me bring in Jason here.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, well, then that'll make Xano happy, I think, because he's asking questions that, unfortunately, I cannot answer. But Jason hopefully will be able to shed some light on that.
Very cool. All right. And let's see. He says... He's writing. He says, that's fine. Okay. So let me add him into the call. All right, bringing him on now.
All right.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Jason. How are you? John is here as well, and we're already live and up on the stream. How are you, sir?
I am just fine. How are you doing, John?
I am great, Jason. Good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
Yes, and chat, everyone say hi to Jason Hardy of Catalyst Game Labs, and is one of the main guys responsible for the Shadowrun role-playing game. So for those of you who have been asking questions about that part of it and about how this ties into the RPG part, Jason is the guy to ask. And again, yeah, Jason, thank you very, very much. I know you were traveling, so I appreciate you jumping on with us. And I don't know if you're in front of your browser, if you're able to maybe head over to take a look at the chat itself, because they may have some, I will try to feed you questions audio-wise, but if you were able to see anything that I might have missed or whatever.
Sure, I can do that.
All right, let me go grab the website for you. Hold on.
Actually, Greg, I have a question for you. Is there a way to, can I close the Twitch thing down the side, the Twitch menu?
Yes, I believe you should be able to.
I just did it. Okay, I minimized it. That's fine.
That's all you're able to do is minimize it. Yeah.
Or gorgeous of your whole little thing goodness here.
I did just so you know, I did change the title. So if you refresh, you'll see that the title is now reflecting the different information.
As well, it should.
Yes, absolutely. It should be. It now totally shows only
this
awesome
this
guests.
Greg writer guy. Who cares about him?
This guy, he's irrelevant. What really matters.
That's right.
So I have changed it. So I just popped it in the Skype window, Jason. You might be able to see it there. If you click on that and head over to there, you'll see folks chatting. John actually created an account, which is free and quick to do, but you don't have to do that. You can still read the chat and then respond that way if you like. But let me know if it pops up properly for you.
Looks like I've got the chat window up, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so once again, chat, if people can say hi to Jason Hardy from Catalyst Game Labs, that would be wonderful. Wonderbar.
Was it Cyberpunk 2020, right? Cyberpunk. I gotta make sure I get my spelling right because an editor, it's terrible.
Yep.
20, the rest is...
Welcome, Jason. Welcome, Jason. Hey, Jason.
Standard.
Hello. Hi, Jason.
There you go.
There they are. Hi,
guys.
Gecko. New people, yeah. So, Jason, I want to ask you a couple questions, and then they've got questions they started to throw at John, and I'm sure they'll have questions for you, too. But I want to ask you about your involvement with Shadowrun initially. I asked John about when he started to get involved with it. He said he first looked at it in college and so forth. So I wanted to know how you kind of got involved in it and talk a little bit about how you got to the point where you are now and what your involvement with the Shadowrun universe is at this point, whether it's related to the game, or other projects outside of it that are still connected to Shadowrun.
Sure. I first became aware of Shadowrun probably in the late 90s or so, going to game stores and seeing some of the great art. and just seeing that it was a combination of so many things that I loved, that it had that dystopian future atmosphere, but also added fantasy in, especially at the time that just was not being done very much, and I loved seeing it. And then I was friends with a guy who worked at FASA, Randall Bills, who's currently at Catalyst Game Labs. And so he was kind enough to take me to Gen Con and introduce me to some people at FASA. And so I looked at the properties, and there were two in particular that I really was interested in, and they were Crimson Skies and Shadowrun. I was able to do some Crimson Skies work, and from there the editor asked if there was more stuff I wanted to do, and I said, yes, get me in on Shadowrun, because I want to be involved there. And so I started pitching a novel to Mike Mulvihill of FASA, and I got his pitch, and he said, this is a good proposal for a novel that would have been written 3 years ago. Why don't you come in and I'll tell you what's going on now?
And once you took your ego off the floor, then what happens?
Yeah, you got to shove that really quickly.
Yep.
In freelance.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
But he was nice enough to take a meeting with me and bring me up to date and help me adjust my proposal. And then about a month or two later, FASA closed. So that was that for that.
Jason killed it. No, that's not true. That's completely not true.
It is. No, you got the story gets worse.
The story gets worse.
Because then, the property went over to FanPro and WizKids, and WizKids was doing some novel, and I got a call from an editor a little bit later saying, I heard you like to do Shadowrun. Are you interested in doing a Shadowrun novel? And I was really excited. I said, yes, please. And then she was laid off about 3 months later.
Oh my heavens! You're
Jason, let me jump in here. That FanPro is also where WizKids, where I came in too, just very shortly on the fiction side with Gene Raby. I co-authored Aftershock, the 5th out of the 6 books. So
yeah, this is the next stage, is when we got to those 6 books.
Oh, okay.
So,
I jumped in a little early then.
The editor that replaced, or the editor that came on to do the fiction line, called me up and again said, we were doing Shadowrun novels. Would you like to do a novel? So I explained to her what happened every other time people had offered me a Shadowrun novel, and said, you understand the risk you're taking.
You were like the Typhoid Mary of Shadowrun. Like, you don't want to show up.
Yeah, and she said she understood the risk and let me do a novel. And so I went through the whole process, wincing and waiting for disaster to happen. But that one came out. That was in the 6-book series. Steve Kenson did the first trilogy. Then the book I wrote, Drops of Corruption, came after that. And John Helfers and Gene Raby, you were number 5, right, with Aftershock?
That is correct. Yes.
And then,
Aftershock is what it came in. It turned up being, yeah. And then Deadman did the 6th one, right?
I think it was Deadman, yeah.
Yes.
And I can't remember the title off the top of my head.
Neither can I. It might come. Poison Agenda.
Right. No, that's one of the trilogy ones.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay.
All right.
So anyway, I finally got to be a published Shadowrun writer, which was exciting. But I also then got some work editing for the role-playing line, and I started doing some writing there too. The first credit I got on the role-playing line was Mr. Johnson's Little Black Book, but I think that was just a thanks for ideas, Jason. And that was about it. But I worked my way up, kept doing more and finding more opportunities. And then, so I was editing. I did a lot of writing for a few projects like Sixth World Almanac. And then at Gen Con about 4 years ago, I knew that they were going to be looking for a new Shadowrun line developer. So I talked to the president of Catalyst, Lauren Coleman, and said I was interested in interviewing for that position. They interviewed me and hired me. So about 4 years ago.
Wow, and the rest is history. And now you get to preside over the new 5th edition coming out.
Right. So I've been overseeing everything that comes out for the role-playing line for 4 years, and that includes 5th edition that was released for PDF 2 weeks ago.
So let me, I am going to want to ask you some questions about that and have Chat ask you questions about that as well. And Chat, just very quickly, we now are about mid-30s in numbers, and that's going to continue to go up. That's great. My name is Arv. You are listening right now to 2 guests of mine that are speaking about Shadowrun Returns and the Shadowrun universe. First of all, John Helfers, who is the literature editor for the literature line and edited the Shadowrun Returns anthology, which came with the game if you pre-ordered the deluxe edition. And also Jason Hardy, who has just joined us from Catalyst Game Labs, who, as you've just heard, is the head of the role-playing game side of things and is presiding over the new 5th edition of Shadowrun. And if you have questions for either one of them, in a minute I'm going to throw it back open for questions. The way to do it is to just put the question in caps, and what I'm going to actually do, because Jason's here now, is if you have a question for one or the other of them, just put in caps, question for John, in caps, and then colon, and then your question, or question for Jason, in caps, and then your question. Or if you have a question for both, question for both. So real simple. Question for John, question for Jason, or question for both. But before I throw that open to them, I do want to ask Jason a couple other things. So tell me a little bit, because I was telling John before that, I mean, I'm right around John's age, and so this came out when the first Shadowrun came out when I was graduating from high school, but I was much more of a sort of straight-up D&D guy. So I had lots of friends who played Shadowrun, and I knew about it from a distance, but I had never gotten into it. And what I'm curious about to hear from you is, without getting, like, I guess, too deep into the weeds, what do you think are the major changes between when it first came out, First Ed, and what you guys are releasing with 5th edition this year? Like, what are the, if someone had just, fallen asleep after playing First edition and came back now, what would they notice that's different?
Well, if I was going to be really snarky, I'd say most of it works.
Okay.
I mean, the First edition, God bless it, got by a lot on atmosphere.
Okay.
There was nothing else out there that mashed up all this stuff together.
Right.
Yeah, there
Which
was
I've
the first
heard a
of its
lot,
kind.
is that the world pulls so much of Shadowrun along. So.
And that was a common comment about Shadowrun for years, is people saying, love the setting, hate the rules.
Yeah.
But each edition has taken steps towards improvement. Second edition did some very cool things. There are some things in second edition that, in my opinion, are still a little unwieldy, but it made great steps from first edition. And third edition streamlined that even more and made it more workable. And then fourth blew up a lot about third edition and made things a lot simpler than they had been, and made some major changes like fixed target numbers and more consistency in all areas of the rules. And so fourth, I think, was one of the first times when people could play for both the rules and the setting.
Okay.
So that was a nice thing to have. So when we were going into 5th edition, we went in with a healthy respect for 4th, and we believed that 4th laid a great foundation for the rules. So we kept a lot of the central mechanics of 4th, while fixing some of the things that we thought could be improved or could make the game either simpler to play or more consistent in all areas of it, or working to build the theme we wanted to have. The everything has a price thing.
Right.
That we thought was very central to Shadowrun.
Right. Yeah, that's, it's interesting. As you've been talking, I've been noticing that too, because chat will notice that I've been going through the character creation here. And it is amazing how much balancing, I mean, just thinking to myself mentally, and I mean, obviously only knowing very little about the way that the details of how some of this works, but, it's kind of got that scratching that RPG itch from, like, what do you mean I can't be a god? I can't do this because I have to do this and have to choose that. So you'd say that trade-offs are a big part of what makes Shadowrun tick. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. The whole thing is about what are you willing to pay to get what you want. Because if you're a Shadowrunner, you're not living a great life. You're trying to be independent, trying not to sell your soul to the megacorps.
Right.
But you have to pay a pretty steep price for that. And so that's a constant question you should be asking yourself. What is it that you want as a Shadowrunner, and how much are you willing to give up? How much of your soul, how much of your integrity, what are you willing to pay?
Jason, I think isn't kind of the subtext on this one, the slogan for the 5th ed is everything has a price, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was something we came up with very early in planning for 5th edition. That slogan just came in, and it kind of, as we were talking, hit us that that's where the focus should be.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, too, to show. I read the comment about this earlier on in the game that people were saying that it seems overwhelming, and you mentioned this too, John, as far as the depth is concerned, but then as you get into it just a little bit, you find that the choices sort of clarify for you. I mean, it's not that it's hand-holding, but that it all makes some kind of coherent sense. So, Jason,
exactly.
For you, would you say that that's something you guys were thinking about also with the RPG, is not just streamlining it, but also making the choices more logical or coherent without at the same time kind of hand-holding players? Obviously you want customizability, but you don't want people to be just sort of staring at a wall of statistics and going, oh my god, I stumbled into an Avalon Hill game. How did this happen? Like, what, I'm curious about what you guys thought about in terms of how to set up the creating a character in a way that people could get into but still feel, like it was their person.
Yeah, well, a lot of that came through just the voices that were at the table creating the game.
Okay.
That we had an experienced stable of writers and playtesters who've been playing for a long time and had a pretty good grasp of what they liked and what they didn't. And once we set our design goals and we knew that we want to make character creation a little easier, but also robust, then they had the knowledge to kind of design it in a way that would give us what we wanted.
Okay.
And so we had a great strength with the knowledge base of the people who worked on the game. But yeah, we wanted to make things make sense. And since we had that theme from the beginning of everything having a price, as the freelancers understood that and worked to build that in, I think you saw more coherency and consistency come in across the rules. So it does make sense. And also just tying everything into the basic game mechanic of attribute plus skill is your dice pool and making sure that is consistent all the time makes it so even if you don't know all the nitty-gritty details and ins and outs, you know basically how the game works. And so you can get in and start playing and then figure things out from there.
Yeah, not feel as if you gimped your character from the start, let's say.
Right.
Because it's balanced, yeah. So okay. So then let me ask then before I want John to have a chance to kind of weigh in on this, and then I'll let some. I know chat is chomping at the bit. We've now hit 40 people and we're on our way up, as I said. So, but I want to ask first one last question. Oh yes, about the game tying into the game. Jason, I don't know if you've had a chance to actually look at or play any of this game, like early versions of it, or do you know anything about the development of it, or what that side of it? Because I was curious. I asked John how he thought they captured the spirit of Shadowrun, and I was curious whether you had a comment about that, or if you can.
Yeah, I've been following the development. I haven't had a chance to play yet, but I've been following the development pretty closely from the beginning because we've been talking back and forth with Harebrained Schemes and talking about the development of the plot for the game. We got to see some of the graphics that they were doing, and just as soon as I saw those first screenshots, I knew that their artists got it.
Yeah.
That they had
absolutely.
It sure looks like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as involved with it as you guys are, but it certainly looked like they nailed what I remembered, of the universe. So.
Yeah, and then for the anthology, because I had a short story also in the anthology that John edited.
A very good story.
Well, thank you. They circulated a document giving the plot of the game so that we know what the plot was, so we know how to write stories to tie into it.
Right.
And I talked to some of the people at Harebrained Schemes before, and helping give some advice to shape where they wanted to go and make it consistent with the whole existing canon of Shadowrun. And again, looking at that, reading over the plot and seeing what they were doing and the directions they wanted to go. And it's pretty clear when you have the creator of Shadowrun working on it, but they get it. They know the feel that Shadowrun is supposed to have, how dark it's supposed to get, and how dangerous it's supposed to be.
And I guess the impression that I got, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is largely a function of how involved, because Jordan is the head of Harebrained Schemes, he's able to sort of shepherd that through, and is also obviously got a major influence on the RPG line, and obviously is directly connected with John doing the literature side. And so it seems like that's part of what is making this all work together, is that Jordan's still at the head of it. Is that fair to say? As the creator, he's got a major influence on all, and that's part of why this works so well collectively?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that is 100% fair to say. I think that he has, he had the strong vision that helped bring Shadowrun to life in the first place, and he still has that vision, and he still knows what Shadowrun is supposed to be, and so he was able to make sure that vision came out. And so his influence is incredibly important.
And of course, that's why the Kickstarter was so successful, I believe, because people who in the know, all the fans knew, well, once Jordan has it, it's going to be done right too.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to mention too. I mean, from the gaming side, so a lot of the people here on my channel right now are obviously fans of the Shadowrun universe, but there are also a lot of people who are curious computer gamers, who are role-playing gamers or just want to see the new game. And this really is the first big budget. I mean, I understand they would disagree with big budget compared to AAA titles like what EA can put out. This is not Mass Effect budget, right? But in terms of what Kickstarter funded, this is something which I believe hit almost $2 million in funding, if I'm not mistaken. And
you are correct.
So what that means is this is the first relatively large budget from a crowdsourcing point of view game to get out there. And there's been lots of issues with other, Double Fine has had problems. There are other games which have been pushed back. And this is the first one. We've got a couple more coming out. Monty Cook's Torment, which I'm super excited about. Project Eternity, which is Obsidian's new thing. And so this is the first version. So it's almost as if they can get this right. Harebrained had not only the pressure from getting Shadowrun right, but they also had the pressure of making the Kickstarter game work right. So it's a pretty high degree of difficulty, it seems to me, to get this going properly.
Yeah, Greg, just as an aside, I'm stunned you have not taken academic etiquette yet.
I know,
I'm
I totally
stunned.
should, right? Well, you know what I'm thinking, actually, but because I do want to make sure that I move on to the creators so we can see that too. So are these all as well things that you would find in the RPG? So corporate, security, gang, socialite, shadowrunner, street, academic, those are all things that you would see in some fashion labeled as such, or is it kind of streamlined from what the RPG would do? Because I'm trying to decide. I'm thinking of corporate and street, so I can be hip in the boardroom and on the street. But I'm not sure if that's actually the way to go. So
Jason, I'm gonna let you field that one for a minute.
Yeah, that's something you'd get in the role-playing game. Etiquette would be a skill, and then you could specialize in one of those areas or other areas to show that where you're
actually going.
good at turning on the charm and showing off.
Or breaking some heads. Or busting some heads. One thing I love about this, that Greg, you're going to see as you go through this, is if you have certain things, it allows you to do as you go in-game conversations, certain physical skills or certain etiquettes allow you to take different paths to get this, possibly a different result. I don't know yet, but if you have a charisma of a certain level, you can take a different tack with people, which I think was a great thing to add to the game in general, because it just doesn't make it the same. Well, if I run through this, no matter if I'm playing a street samurai or a decker or a rigger, it's all going to be the same stuff. No. Each character's strengths and weaknesses are played up as well. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to put in my handle on Twitch here, which is Arvan Eleron, except as chat will notice, I have added a 0 instead of an O, because that's my nod to the Shadowrun universe.
Right.
So this is Arvan Eleron, and of course John will exactly know what I got Arvan Eleron from, why I use that as my handle.
It does sound vaguely familiar.
Vaguely familiar, yes. For people who don't know, John was the editor who bought my first novel, actually. So in a way, John kind of gave me my start in my writing career. So that's one reason of many that John's such a good guy, is that he was willing to do it. But in any case, all right. So so I've named my character. He is a shaman. He looks vaguely like a bizarre Errol Flynn who's had a bad day at the office. He has got he's chosen a bear totem so he can heal the people around him. Oh, thank you very much, Optic. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I should mention that, by the way. First of all, for people who are in my stream, we're up to about mid-40s now. First of all, welcome. We have with us John Helfers, who's the literature editor for Shadowrun and who did the anthology for Shadowrun Returns, and also Jason Hardy, who is at Catalyst Game Labs, is the head of the Shadowrun RPG line at Catalyst, and they are both answering questions from chat. I want to make one announcement related to that, and then I'm going to let chat have at it and ask you guys questions as I play. The thing I want to announce is that thanks to the generosity of viewers, including Optic, which thank you very much, man, for that. Optic, Nerve Productions, and Netawin have given me games to be able to gift to people. So probably in an hour or so, I will be giving out, apropos, I think, for this stream, Fallout 1 and Fallout Tactics on Steam. So I will be giving that out here in about an hour. Yeah, if you guys ask a question and you're in chat, you'll be entered to actually win. And the only ones not eligible for this, sadly, are John, Jason, and myself, for obvious reasons. But everybody else,
as usual, that figures.
As usual, or any relationships that will. But otherwise, hey, Devious, what's up? Okay, so now having said that, now we're going to throw it open to questions. So again, if you guys have a question for John or Jason, please just ask by putting in all caps, question for John, : and then the question you have for him. In all caps, question for Jason. Don't put the whole question in caps, please. Just the question for Jason part, :
No, we love
and
having people yell at us.
Yeah, yelling at us is always good. And then if you have a question for both, you just say question for both in all caps. Okay, so you may now have at it, chat, if you will, and I am going to get started and see what we got here.
Online Shadowrun Returns game. Hold on, I need to put this on Facebook, see if we can get some people in there.
And also keep in mind, by the way, that Jason and John both of them know about the computer game, but keep in mind that these guys are related to it peripherally. John through the literature side, Jason through the RPG side. So it is not so much the case. Oop, hold on. Did I lose somebody? I heard the Skype shut down. Hold on a minute.
I'm still here.
I think I lost Jason. Okay, give me a second. We'll
Oh.
get him back.
Okay.
There he is. Jason, we have you
All
back.
right, there we go. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Don't know what happened.
No problem. No problem. So keep in mind that Jason and John have a lot of things that they can talk about in the Shadowrun universe, and they can't talk about anything related to the plot of the game. So those questions are out. And as far as the computer game development, they may not have as much to say. So that'll depend. You can ask them about different things, but keep in mind their knowledge is going to be more about the Shadowrun universe generally and how this fits in, but not so much about like specific development stuff. So. Question for Arv, do I like cake? Yes, I do, Burner. Yes, I do. Okay. Right. So now you may have at it with those questions, and let's see what we've got. Down and out. My apartment, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's got 4 walls, a roof, and isn't on fire. Even the cockroaches have fled in search of better accommodations. I feel like I should be doing this with like rain in the background and like, like the Dashiell Hammett. It's not exactly a runner's dream pad, but right now it's about all you have left.
Exactly.
Running the Shadows is all about feast or famine. One day you're Nova hot, working jobs at Light, eat at 5-star restaurants. The next, well, you're here. This one's a famine for the ages. Slagging Fixer hasn't called. The money's run out and then some. Sinless and free to starve in the cracks of a society run by megacorps who just want your million. Something needs to change and soon. That's one thing actually that I was going to ask you about the slang in this game, but I'll come back to that a little later on. All right, so Gilt has a question for both. For someone who's been interested in the IP for a while but doesn't know how to start getting into it, what in your opinion is the best place to start? That's a good question. I'll throw it to both of you.
It's a very good question. Jason, you want to leave it next? I imagine you have an answer, and I'll have an answer too.
Sure. If we're talking about like right now today, I would think Shadowrun Returns would be an excellent place to start because it's going to be a little bit more accessible than the role-playing game, unless you have some experience with the role-playing game. But if you haven't gotten into it, play Shadowrun Returns, get a feel for what type of characters are out there, how the universe works, what's in there, and then you can go from there. But if we're talking about 2 or 3 months from now, we're going to have a lot more products coming out. So there will be an introductory box set for the role-playing game that will make it easier to get into. We'll have a card game called Shadowrun Crossfire. So if you like card games, you'll be able to do that. So depending on what kind of game you like to play, we'll have more avenues of entry for you. There are also quick start rules for the role-playing game available for free at shadowruntabletop.com or at Drive Through RPG. So just go there, download the PDF, and you can get a taste. So that would be another way to quickly get involved.
If you have a chance to maybe type that into chat, that would be really helpful too. And I did want to forward along 2 things. One, first of all, for people asking questions, Super RPG Man, welcome to the stream. But please ask with the capitals first, just so that we don't get confused about who's doing what, whether you guys are chatting to each other. So I think the question you asked was, have you played the Sega CD version? How do you feel about the announced project to remake it with the editor? So that question about earlier versions of Shadowrun games is an interesting one. And also, last thing, Optic had a question about a fanboy moment of asking. You can ask that question. Go ahead and ask your fanboy question again when you get a chance, Optic. Just do that capital letters thing for me. So, but what did you guys play any of the earlier video game versions of Shadowrun ever, or was it strictly the RPG side?
Mine was strictly RPG. Unfortunately, I never got the chance to. I was too broke to get a Sega or anything else like that, so I never had the opportunity. It was all pen and paper.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't played the other ones, but where I just came from, I was traveling today before I got here. I was at a family reunion, and where we were staying, they had like 14,000 video game ROMs all on a computer in the cabin, and one of them was the Sega version of Shadowrun. So my son played it for about 5 minutes until he realized he'd forgotten to read all the text before he got into the action and had no idea what he was doing. But then my nieces and nephews kind of dominated the machine the rest of the weekend, so I never got a chance to sit down with it.
Nice. Sega CD, that's old school right there. Very, very old school.
Jason, I don't think there's going to be Optics asking, again, please put the question in caps. Will there be action figures like the ones WizKids had? I believe that's never going to happen again, as far as I know. Is that correct?
Well, if Bull has his way, it will. Bull is a guy who's our missions developer, our living campaign. He develops the adventures for that, and he loves action figures, and he would love some Shadowrun action figures the size of G.I. Joe things.
This is
but,
not. Those action figures were fantastic, but I think that's part of the problem was getting them made. I mean, they were just unbelievable. But It was, I remember Randall telling me about it, like the issues, shall we say, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It was just that they were they were phenomenal, but to make them was just, it was a nightmare. So, which is too bad because they looked unbelievable.
This is as we're talking, I'm just looking at some of these things around this place. By the way, the art style I think is gorgeous. I think that this is,
isn't it fantastic?
I mean, and the lighting, you know, it's pretty amazing, especially if the editor that they're doing, which a lot of people are even more excited about than just the main game. If the editor can have those assets work, especially with that lighting, that would really sort of construct that. Yeah, that's exactly right, Super. Thank you very much. Just to make it easier for us as we're looking over.
Yes, thank you very much.
The list is sad, dried up. Carter Detroit, Fixer, no response to messages. Dowd, Runner, dead. Felton Ash, Fixer, missing since February. New Larry, Runner, dead. Sam Watts, Runner, question mark, probably in a gutter somewhere. Sangoma, Rudder, dead. Half-Jack Dealer, retired or dead. The list goes on, all either dead ends or just plain dead. So this is an uplifting game. That,
it's very spiritual. Yeah, very. Yeah, we'd be very cheery, very cheery. Well,
Yes.
look at where you're staying, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I know, it's true, and I have nothing to do and nowhere to go.
You're one drop away from a fire there. To be honest.
Exactly.
So.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Interesting question for Jason. Heard the game is too linear that there's no explanation or way to go back for side missions once you complete an area. I don't think that's the case, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't say about Shadowrun Returns. You know, the role-playing game is not, but as far as a computer game, I have not had a chance to play it yet, so I don't know.
And I don't think it is because I've seen side missions come up and they just stay there until you decide to finish them, from what I can tell. So I don't think that's an issue. I haven't played enough yet to get a feel for it. But it's not like how to say this. I mean, when you're in an area, and you're pretty much staying there, which is, I mean, I think it's okay because you're there to do a specific task, but it's not like Neverwinter or Throne of Ball or anything like that, where you can go to different areas depending on what you have to do or something like that.
Right.
I think Bull just arrived.
Yes, I was about to say that Bull-like person I was talking about who wants Shadowrun miniatures is in chat.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Hi, Bull.
So wait, this is some wait. So sorry, catch me up on this because I'm trying to do 6 things at once. So this is someone
He
that
handles missions for the RPG. He's the mission guy. Yeah, exactly.
So very, very cool. So wait, you were the mission. Oh, no kidding. That's pretty amazing. So then welcome. That is an extra guest that I was not expecting. Hi, Bull. Welcome in. Thank you for coming.
This is a fun story from last year's Gen Con. If you saw the video that they put on the Kickstarter for Shadowrun Returns, when it came out, it featured people throwing things at one of the developers for the game, Mitch Gittleman.
Okay.
Because he was also involved in the Shadowrun Xbox game, which was not entirely well received by Shadowrun loyalists.
So that was you, Bull, huh? That you're.
Well, Bull wasn't the one throwing, but Mitch took some flack from that.
Oh, I see.
Working on Shadowrun Returns, and looks like he's doing a fine job. But it's a very nice moment at the Gen Con seminar when Bull, who is the walking embodiment of old school Shadowrun, and Mitch shared a nice hug at the seminar. It was a very warm kumbaya moment of people coming together.
It was
And that's the last warm kumbaya moment Shadowrun will feature for years.
I was just about to say, I was like, kumbaya and Shadowrun did not seem to me to be things that would fit together.
And if you try to ask anyone about it, they'll deny it ever happened. So.
Taz, Baldur's Gate 2 is definitely going to be happening next week. We have been doing a run, of course, with that, but this is Shadowrun evening, sir. So just hang in there, man. You're going to enjoy it.
Right.
Baldur's Gate 2 has definitely got some roots in the Infinity Engine games for sure. There's no question about it. So let's see.
I'm sending out a holler to the folks in the book and see if anyone happens to be online and wants to join us. That would be fun too. Bull is a nice surprise, exactly. Steve, Mohan, Silver, no.
So far, I think we've established that my character is pretty much a loser here. That's what I've got so far. And this is the first character that I've actually encountered, Sam Watts. Let's see. Scream leaps to life, making you squint against its brightness. The face on the screen is laughing. Sam Watts. Hey, buddy, hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. He giggles. He's drunk again or worse. Okay. So let's see. You're zoned. Where have you been, Sam? I haven't heard from you in months or shouldn't have given you my comm code, Gonk. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you guys quickly about that, about the language. And this may apply maybe even a little more to John than to Jason, although I'm sure both of it will be there. Because of when this is set, depending on 2040, 50, 70, depending on what iteration we're talking about, they tried to add in a lot of pieces of slang that would sort of explain the development of language to that point while still making it recognizable to people, because it's not 3050, it's 2050 or 40 or whatever the case may be. So I'm wondering about that, about how you handled continuity in terms of language and slang. Jason, you can also speak to this because you have obviously written stories in this universe, as you've talked about. So I'm wondering about getting
what am I, chopped liver here?
No, and I said you first. I said you first. You're the first person. But no, so my question is about the language for both of you guys. What it was like to sort of write in that universe and edit that universe and keep the dialogue consistent.
Jason, what was it, 5th ed where they started to go more like real slang? Maybe you should launch on this one. 4th ed. Okay. So this one was kind of, we went back and forth on it. Some of the stories have the standard Drek and Slot and, Chummer and the other ones, and some of them have other, Shadowrun's always had a rich linguistic history, including Elven. It's Elven before Peter and the boys over at Lord of the Rings did their Elven, which I think is very cool. Mm-hmm. So it was a balancing act. We said, well, we let the writers I'm going to speak to the anthology. That's the most recent thing I've done. When I did Aftershock back several years ago, that was total, Drek and what's the other one for I'm missing, Jason? What's the other swear word? It's Drek and Frag. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, Frag. That one was total in the 4th ed. They didn't want it to be taken to that level. And then nowadays they said, we'll let our authors mix it up a bit. So they had their option of whether they wanted to do, other profanities or the classic Shadowrun ones. They had their choice. And keeping it actually stayed pretty consistent, even though we've covered like 20 years of game time. Okay. So Jason, you jump in on that one if you'd like. Thank you, Bull, by the way.
Whenever I talk to people about Shadowrun, or when I was telling people that I write for Shadowrun, 90% of the time, the first thing they say is, "Oh, frag that, chummer," or something involving Shadowrun slang. It is so closely tied to the identity of the universe that it helps give the feel for it.
Okay.
It is tricky because slang tends not to stay stagnant over long periods of time.
That's true. That's true.
And one of the reasons in 4th edition they moved towards real world slang is that it can have a tendency, when you use euphemisms, to sound like you're trying to clean up language and to make it sound like Shadowrunners are watching their word choice to be polite.
Which they wouldn't do, I assume.
Which they would not. So they introduced some more of the vulgarity that we're all so familiar with. And so what we're trying to do is, as John said, mix it up. To let the Shadowrunner speak as vulgar as they'd like to, while also keeping the slang that makes the universe distinctive. We're looking at ways to introduce new slang subtly along the way, just to keep the language evolving. The freelancers have had a lot of fun conversations about that. The very first story I ever wrote for Shadowrun, a short story that got put up on the website for free, featured one character who just made up slang randomly just to confuse the newbie he was training. Like you'd say, "We're going to slot some carob on the rebar." Just to make him try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, Jason always likes to push the boundaries on certain things, but he's a great author to work with because and that's, like everyone who went into this anthology, they know the world inside and out, backwards and forwards. They are down with it, and just, when you need a story in 3 weeks, you need to go to people who know it, because there's a learning curve. I mean, I don't want to scare anyone off the game, especially, and getting back to that question you asked about what's the best way to jump into this IP, I would agree with him that Shadowrun Returns is an excellent way to jump in here. And also, I'd say, although not a lot of it's out right now, is to go try to haunt some used bookstores or go online and find some of the fiction. Yeah. Because I think the fiction has done a great job, and I'm not just tooting the horn as the editor, but the fiction's done a great job of bringing the world to life.
Well, just in general, and chat knows this from me anyway, I'm always going to encourage people to go get the writings from authors. Help authors. I'm just going to say that collectively. Anything that helps authors is a good thing, just generally, let alone Shadowrun. But yes, so getting more of that is helpful.
There's a novella out there called Neat by Russell Zimmerman that I think is a great way to get into it.
And that's called what? Say that again. The Neat?
It's called Neat. Just Neat. Just Neat by Russell Zimmerman. You can find it on RPG Fiction. You can find it on Amazon. It's available anywhere electronic books, as far as I know, are sold. It's a great introduction. It's classic Shadowrun, down and dirty, private eye, doing his thing, trying to survive in Seattle in 2072. And Russell's another one who just got it. He gets it just backwards and forwards.
Well, he's been in the game and living and breathing Shadowrun for years, and he knows it. He's got the feel down cold.
Let me make a.
Sorry, go ahead, shout out from Bull on Neat as well.
Yes, you said Neat is fantastic. So,
and speaking of Russell Zimmerman, there he is.
Wow. Hey, welcome in, Russell.
Hey, good. Someone got the email. Excellent. Hey, hi.
Thank you very much. So let me make an announcement since that incorporates that. Chat, you were watching me, Arv, play through Shadowrun Returns with special guests. The two that I had on Skype for tonight are John Helfers, who's the editor of the literature line for Shadowrun, who did the Shadowrun Returns anthology, and also has written stories in that universe as well, and Jason Hardy, who has written stories in the universe, but also is the head of the RPG, Shadowrun RPG for Catalyst Game Labs. And what I did not expect is that these wonderful people were also going to bring in two people who would also know a lot about the game, including the person who just came in, which is Russell Zimmerman. So thank you, Russell, for stopping in. I appreciate it. Just again, as a reminder, these folks have connections to the Shadowrun game, as they've talked about, and are certainly happy to speak about it. But questions about why something showed up in the game or didn't, they can maybe speculate about it, but they're not going to be able to know. First of all, they can't spoil it if it's a plot thing. But beyond that, they're not going to necessarily know because they didn't, these are not the computer guys themselves, but they are, as I said, directly connected with it. And what I didn't realize was that whole thing about the anthology being directly connected to the game itself, that there are NPCs in the game that have their own stories in the anthology. So I think that's really cool as well. So if you have a question for people in the Skype call or out there, please again remember to put question in all caps, either question for Jason, question for John, or question for both in all caps, and then feel free to ask your question and we will get to them as soon as we can.
There was one up. Hold on a second. I want to go back. Super RPG Man said, considering how dark the P&P game is, and I'm afraid I don't know which one that is, and that you had a lot more freedom with what content you could add.
He means.
Thank you. Oh, good point. More freedom with what content you could add. Why is it you kept this game's content PG-13? That is actually a Jordan question. I would imagine, though, to be quite honest, to have it, I can answer this myself, but it's only my opinion, and that's to have this reach out and be as interesting to as large a group of people as possible. And the game, with an RPG game, you can customize for the group, but this computer game, it's limited in the, it's not limited in the story, but it's limited, there's a certain level, it has to hit a certain wave point that can get people who are new to Shadowrun, people who are very experienced with Shadowrun, and it's got to hit all those buttons, and certain things are not going to be done, although I have to say it'd be interesting if there was like kind of an adult level only, where things were even darker. Mm-hmm. But as people play the game, it's pretty dark. I'm going to be honest with you. This is... I'd say PG-13, really? We've got bodies lying on the ground and the dead people, and I don't know if it's PG-13 myself. It's certainly not NC-17, I'll tell you that much. But I would say it goes like somewhere in that gray area. But it's dark. But I would say that's why is to make it broad. I've had reviews about the new fiction saying, geez, why do they have the real profanity? These characters shouldn't be swearing. I'm like, okay. And that kind of an issue, and that's, I think, why they did it the way they did it. But that, again, is totally my opinion. It should be taken as such.
And Russell makes a good point that you can always, with the editor, make it even darker, theoretically, if you wanted to. There's nothing keeping you from doing that.
That's true.
So there's definitely that as well. And within the game, by the way, it looks as if this guy who contacted me, Sam Watts, is already dead. So this is one of those automated message. Was talking to me about sort of the past. Normally, I'd be reading more of this in the game, but I'm trying not to do that because I want to leave this. I want John and Jason to be the stars of this as much as possible, and the new people who've just come in the chat. So,
Russell's just saying he's been yes. Actually, it's a flashback with action.
Oh,
that's a good.
Very cool.
It is very cool. This is a lot of fun.
Makeshift bar in the Seattle docks. The night Dowd went down. Again, I just want to comment. The art style really looks like they just nailed the feel of the universe, and really, really crisp. I don't know. Very, very cool.
Oh yeah, the one thing I will say, unless someone knows if I can change this, is I wish there was environmental sounds, and I'm not getting them. If someone knows how to modify that in the menu, because I'd like to kind of hear that rain pattern stuff.
Oh yeah,
I'm slightly disappointed in. But you go through this, Greg. This is a great way to get you kind of into how things are going.
Yeah, very cool. Urban shaman who proved her worth during a run against Fuchi last fall. Quiet type experienced runner. Let's see. Late for another appointment. Our fixer owns us for the run and for Dowd. We wait. Late for another appointment. Yeah, let's ask that. Sarcasm doesn't suit you. Let's wait another 5. I think it suits me quite well, as your answer is proven. Okay. Question for Jason. Let's see. Yeah, okay, Optic, I will. Lego Freak asks,
Oh,
question for
Winterhawk.
Jason.
Yes, thanks for catching that.
Do
Sorry.
you play other games besides Shadowrun? Jason, that was for you.
Yes, absolutely. Role-playing wise, we shift in my gaming group. So other GMs tend to run Dungeons and Dragons or their own homebrew games. My son took a turn GMing his game that he made himself, so that was exciting.
Nice.
Oh,
And
neat.
then board games, yeah, I play a ton of board games, some card games, so I play whatever I can.
Yeah. Good stuff. And that does
Well,
not that doesn't surprise me.
It would have been awesome to have voice acting, but they had to put their money to get the most bang for the buck. And I mean, on one hand, yeah, it's true, there's a lot of text, but there aren't there. I think there are other games out there that do almost all the voice acting. Well, at least in the cut screens they do. I know StarCraft does a lot of that.
Yes, and the Mass Effect
But
games did
that's
for sure too.
pricey. Then you're talking money. I mean, although that'd be cool. That would have been a cool mod to have someone come in and try to do voice for one of the characters as like the $15,000 Kickstarter backer.
Right.
But I think they did a fine job. And hey, who knows? Maybe if this thing takes off and it does really well, we'll see that later. It just all depends on what HBS has planned for this.
And you're probably going to add a lot to the size of the game if you do voice recordings too.
Well, yeah, that too. That's true.
That's true as well. I mean, because I don't even know what the size of the game was, but it couldn't have been that large. I downloaded it pretty fast this afternoon when it released, and it didn't seem like it was that much of an issue. So, So let's see, and then
Super RPG Man has a very interesting question, and the answer is don't know. I'm really not sure. That's
question,
again,
yeah.
that's an HBS one to answer for them. I do not know how they plan on if they're going to do any kind of oversight or policing or anything like that. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't have that info either.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So let's see, never saw anybody die like that before. Oh, very cool.
Hey, Robin's here. Fantastic.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Robin. That's Winterhawk11. Thank you very much for all the writers who were here in chat. Thank you guys. Thank you all so much for joining us. Closing in now mid-50s and continuing to rise, which is great. Again, if you have questions for any of these folks, make sure to do that. Capitalize the word question, just so that people can pick it up. Yeah, no problem, Super. That wasn't directed at you. I was just in general for new people. And this guy, I'm running with some peoples, and I have a feeling a lot of them are about to die because it sounds to me
Hey,
that happens.
it all depends on how you handle yourself there,
All right.
chummer.
All right. Well, I will. Very nice. Let's see. Let's see. Take a pill and relax. No, we wait for the money. Shut your screamer about the rain. We lost a man tonight. Yeah, that's right. Back off, man. New Larry. Soka, sorry. I'm just really ready to go home. Portland's way more my speed. All right. So Xanis has a question.
yeah.
In the original pen and paper second edition, there were balance points. Like if you used magic, the more tech you got installed, the harder it became for you to use that magic. Is it still in the game, and how is it implemented? I actually think that is in the game, but Jason, I'm wondering, I know you haven't had a chance to play it yet, but maybe you can sort of explain what Xanos is talking about, and then John, since you've played it, you can tell me if that's true. That's actually, I heard that it was, but you can tell me from experience.
Okay.
Yeah, in role-playing, it's still there. Basically, the idea is that magic is something that comes from the life of the world, and technology is more artificial. So the more technology you put into yourself, the more you're going to hinder your magic abilities. In both 4th and 5th edition, that was done through a attribute called essence, which is basically the amount of life you have going through you. The more augmentations and artificial things you introduce to your body, the lower your essence gets. You have 6 points of essence, and if you go down to 0, then you are no longer a living being. You are a hunk of lifeless metal. And there are other effects that essence has throughout the gameplay. It can affect how well you can be healed by magic. In 5th edition, it can specifically affect how people react to you, because as you become less human, you just seem a little strange sometimes to people. And so if you are magic, you don't want to take too many artificial augmentations, because it's going to reduce how high your magic rating can go and how much power you can put into your spells. Whether that's in Shadowrun Returns, John, do you know?
As far as I can tell, yes. I'm playing a physical adept, and I know the drill, so I'm not going to get I'm not going to get any the cyberware, but it has there's slots for cyberware. There's magic is at 6, just like it used to be in the game, as I understand. So I believe that it is balanced that way. If you start putting in cyberware, you're going to have to take away from your magic. So people should be watching that. By the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Philip A. Lee, also joined us here. So that's I think 4 writers here, and we can actually toss some questions out to them if people want to, if you can mention which stories they have in the anthology, and if they want to talk about that a little bit too, would be fantastic, in my humble opinion. Since we have so many of them here in one place, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do.
And if you could now that you have already turned in your stories, if you could honestly explain how it felt to be told, get a story in 30 days, make sure it's right, and don't screw up. Just let us know how you felt about it.
Like normal
and
how, freelancer.
Yeah, I know. That was that was a softball for the freelancers in the crowd.
And how great it was working with me too. That's the other thing.
Yes, how great it was working with John. Definitely make sure you get that in there. That's going to be huge. So
John is a pleasure to work with, in all honesty. I enjoy working with John. He's smart. He's got a good sense of humor. He tells you when you need to improve, but he's not overly abrasive.
So, no, John's a great editor. I'm biased, but he is a great
editor.
I'm
mildly abrasive, but
you got to be somewhat abrasive. You're an editor. Come on.
Yes, you got that right. And your check's in the mail, Jason. Yours too, Greg. No, it's like I said, assembling this crew, it was a great team to work with. Everyone was just fan-freaking-tastic, absolutely. And yeah, Russell's just putting his agent stuff set in 2054. Here, read this. I wrote it instead of sleeping for 2 days. That was about what it was like. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. By the way, if people have been watching also on the stream, it looks like things are about to get real here. So Sam and New Larry are now accusing each other of having screwed up as to why Dowd died. And so we got, how come you couldn't geek that guy before he unloaded on Dowd? I've seen you fling a lightning bolt, son. That, by the way, is going to be my new SIG. I've seen you fling a lightning bolt, son. He should have been burnt toast before his gun cleared the holster. New Larry checks his watch, licks his lips, looks over your shoulder at the darkness. He's looking for someone. It's not the fixer. I can see where this is going. You chummers are damaged. I'm out. Okay, so the fight is building up here. That's what we're talking about here as well.
Got it. Yeah, about to get real. Is that very apt? Yes.
About 15 minutes from now, by the way, we are going to be having a giveaway for people in the chat, and I will include the writers here. I can't include Jason and John as our official guests because they're sort of it's like the employees of such and such. They can't be allowed to win. But given that these other people were nice enough to come in at very, very late notice, if any of you on stream are here in about 15 minutes, I will be giving away Fallout 1 and Fallout Tactics. I think that's apropos of this game that we're playing as well, and that I will be giving away on Steam. So if you are here in about 15 minutes or so, you will be entered in that drawing for Fallout 1 and Fallout Tactics. So on we go. Again, if people have questions for anyone, please make sure that you that's speaking right now or one of the authors, just make sure that you do question first in all caps. Question for John, question for Jason, question for both, or question for one of the other wonderful authors there. That way we will see it. And 180, you are more than welcome. I am happy to be able to do it. I'm really excited to have these guys on. One of the reasons I was happy to do it too is because you all know I'm an author, and Shadowrun is a game like this. I love RPGs anyway, but a game like this that allows me to tie in something which has this kind of a literary emphasis, because one of the things I've heard that's really great about this game is how good the writing is, and that's appropriate given that the writing of Shadowrun has always been one of its strongest elements, I think. So you're more than welcome, sir. So if you have questions, make sure you send them along.
Gilt just put this on Reddit, so awesome.
Very cool. Thanks,
and
Gilt.
Thanks everyone for the nice comments, by the way. It was a pleasure working with everyone, and I sincerely mean that. And as I just posted, I just put in there when I was answering, I think it was Robin, that my job as the editor is to make sure that the story is the best story it can be. But I also am very sensitive, because I'm also a writer too, so I come at it from both worlds. I'm a hybrid, as Greg said, with radio experience. But I do both. So I sit on both sides of the desk, and I know how frustrating it can be. I've been through it too, when someone comes and just kind of runs roughshod all over the story you've crafted and put your heart and soul into. So I really try to avoid that at all possible. Now, if someone's going to try to break something, then we kind of have a small problem. But you guys everyone was great. Phil, Robin, Jason, everyone was just fantastic to work with. And it's like they said, I slept at Russell. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I wrote this instead. Hey, you guys are so fantastic at coming through on such a short deadline and doing such great work. And yeah, I wish we could post I wish you could show somehow the anthology, because the anthology really looks fantastic.
Although one of the things
it's just phenomenal.
One of the things you can do, though, and I would like you to do, is for the authors in chat, or Jason or John, I would love to be able to post links to either websites or projects that you're working on. Philip, if you could spill the beans about your BattleTech. No, I'm just kidding. I know you can't do that. But if you could put a link to a site where we can find out more about your work. I am always about authors, editors, and people involved in role-playing games and, of course, literature. So if you guys want to put your stuff up there, that would be certainly fine with us. That would be great. Takara has a question. Who was your first Shadowrun character? If you remember, mine was an orc ghoul hermetic called Krona in 4th ed. That's a good question for the sort of people in the chat.
Boy, she is reaching way back for that one. I want to say it was a street samurai. Elf. That's all I remember about it.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm not going to look at all this now. I'll figure this out. Let's see. Get a job. Any job. We're now in combat, so it officially has gotten real. And Larry, screw that guy. That's you know. What's the word? Frag that guy? What should I be saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Russell, how dare
Also
you?
take the mage.
John Shadowrun plug. What is wrong with you? Yes, exactly. The magic users are usually the most dangerous.
Let's see what we got here.
Bodyguard named Jason, what was your first Shadowrun character? I'm curious.
I think it was a face, because I think the other group was getting ready to pound stuff, and so I decided I'd be doing a lot of fast talking, because I enjoy that.
There you go. Yeah.
Pretty sure he was just a human.
Spoilers ahead. Oh, Robin's first character, Winterhawk, been around since '91. Wow, that's amazing. That's really cool.
That
Robin
has come into official Shadowrun canon and is one of the posters on Jack Point, so pops up a lot in the book, and is one of my favorite Jack Point characters, because he's got really fun voice to write in, kind of that dry, slightly sardonic, and sometimes so dry that people don't notice he's being sardonic, which I really like to write for.
Gotcha. Well, Super RPG Man's asking kind of what else we do or have done, which is, yes, Greg, you should have been more forthcoming on that. Shame on you. No, I'm kidding.
Yes,
totally
my fault.
Speaking of worlds that need to be created into a RPG, an RPG or another game, I write novels in the Deathlands series for Gold Eagle, and I also write the Executioner books. I do a lot of tie-in work.
Oh, cool.
Besides my work for Catalyst, and then I do have one fiction, a straight fantasy novel I need to get up into electronic format that is currently OOP, out of print. And I also freelance edit. I do novels and whatever else, anything's willing to pay me to edit. Such as the good folks at Catalyst. So that's how that works.
Okay. Cool.
Jason, I don't know if you want to toss in what you also... Well, Jason, when is your book dropping? Hold on. It's when is The Last Prophecies actually coming out?
It's out. You can buy it on Amazon now. Last Prophecies is an original fantasy novel that I wrote.
Indeed.
And it's a lot of fun. It was just based on an idea I had a while ago, and then I had to write a book around it and change the book and then re-edit the book and all that. But it's now out, so if you look for Last Prophecies on Amazon, you can get that. I also, just because it sounded like fun, an artist named Tony Steele and I wrote a book called Stranded on Earth, a guide for misplaced aliens.
Yes.
So if you know of any aliens who are stuck on Earth and can't get off and you want to help them adjust, Stranded on Earth is the book for you. That one's not on Amazon because I haven't figured out how to get it on there with all the illustrations, but it is on Drive-Thru Fiction.
Very cool. Yeah, sorry, John, I had to take you out and put you back in because you were starting to buzz a little bit. There's a Skype bug that does that, but you're now back. So.
Sweat. Okay, I got a couple questions here. Zano, remember, please